Everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 7, The Spies. Flat out, this is probably my favorite episode of the entire series. This episode was crazy. This episode, and I've said this a bunch of times, Season 1 finale, the post-credit sequence the Darksaber first showed up, I was so excited, made me tear up, like to the point where I was like, I officially count that as crying. I cried again today. It's not like Andor, because that was a real life thing happened, but this is pure nerdy, this is a Star Wars moment. Also, 420 review, hence the big sushi, but let me tell you, being high watching this episode was one of the greatest Star Wars moments I've ever had in my life. And it was insane, and it made me cry. Because I was like, this is so good. The entire episode, for me at least, and I did this in my head, and unfortunately I was right. The whole episode was just like a suspense episode for me, because the entire time, it was just like, hey, I want to do this. We got to stop the Mandalorians. Which, surprise, surprise, he figured out what they were doing. That's what they want to stop. Whole episode, I was like, we got the finale coming up. So, they can't get here now, right? Like, they have to wait to do to the end of the episode, something like that. But then it's like, I don't know. Everyone was like, oh, we leave the fleet in space. I was like, oh, you can't see through the atmosphere. Like, that's an easy way to get caught. And it was like, whole episode, I was just freaking out. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I feel like it's happening. Something's dying. Somebody's about to go. And then it happened. And like the greatest twist, because the entire episode, I was like, they're just gonna show up. Like when they first went down, I was like, they're just gonna go down and they'll be right on the planet. I wasn't as far off as I thought. And then it was like, okay, when they go up, she's gonna go up to the ships, and it's just gonna be like, boom, the Empire's already there. And then it just kept going, and they go. First off, Pirate Mandalorians, that was amazing. They had their own ship, that was cool. That thing gets destroyed. Looked cool. Thought it was gonna be a Lego, still could be. Gets destroyed. That was insane. If I'm not mistaken, that was the creature that we just recently saw, like at this point, maybe a month ago, in the Bad Batch. I'm pretty sure that was that same creature. That's what it looked like. It was pretty fast, but I was like, that looks like the head, like the shell of it and stuff. But from a different angle, it didn't. But it may have been that, may not have been that. Love that creature though. It was very interesting. But I was like, holy crap, this is super cool. Their ship is destroyed. They're defenseless. She goes up to space. Empire's there. They cut from that. I'm like, okay, something is happening. Whole episode was freaking out. The further they went, I was just like, some of the other shoes about to drop. And then it does. And it was insane. Because it started off, it was just like, okay, this is nuts. They finally showed up. That means they probably got the people, from the top. Like, dang, they actually got them. They just didn't show it to us. So they got the people in space already. They came down to the planet. They're freaking Mandalorian troopers, which is what I'm going to call them. I don't care what their actual name is. I'm calling them Mandalorian troopers, or Beskar troopers, not Mandalorian troopers, but Beskar troopers, because that is such a cool idea. Turns out they were the ones that rescued him. It wasn't other Mandalorians. They just stole a buttload of Beskar, which ties directly into like the first season where it was like, oh, the Empire stole all that stuff. Like they talked about that a lot more back when Beskar was like, the new hot, product you can make. So they did all that stuff. So they set it up from the beginning of the series, and it's like, this is what they've been using it for. Like they figured out what the next phase was, and it was to make Beskar troopers, and that was insane. And of course, they come in on jetpacks and everything, and then things get crazy. It's like, oh, they're retreating. I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. They'd still be running into, heavy fire, something like that. And then as the chase kept going, which was an amazing chase, like the whole action sequence was phenomenal. Like they gave Din his epic moment where he leads the charge and they're just shooting at him, and it's just like nothing because he's got the best Beskar in the business, and he's taking people out, and all of it's amazing. And then when they're retreating and they have this portion, I'm just like, this is a weird tunnel. Where are they going to? And then I'm like, why are these white rings around them? Like that looks like the Empire. And then they keep walking. I'm like, they didn't walk on a ship, because that's rocks right there. Like that's not how ships work. And then it just it slowly kicked in, because I was high probably, but it took a second, and then it's just like, there's a base on Mandalore. And that's where Moff Gideon was in the beginning of the episode, where he walked down the most badass sequence ever with just pure episode 1 lasers. It was like, there is no reason for that much security. Between every single thing was another Beskar trooper. And I'm like, it's so over the top. It's so ridiculous. but it was a super badass looking shot with like the red and black. It was like, classic Vader stuff. Like the best villains kind of get that look. We'll see what Thrawn gets considering his skin and how they handle that. He'd be an interesting character to always have lit up and not like in the darkness, because just how he works. But man, that was an amazing sequence. It was like, man, they got the episode 1 lasers back. It looks super cool. These new troopers that I hadn't seen before. I was like, okay, let's see what they do. They end up being absolutely phenomenal. And then it's just like, okay, all this madness happens. They have a base on Mandalore. And then they have more and more troopers come in. And then it's like, okay, we got to shut all this down. Close the door. There's Din Djarin, because the other 3 people, they hit them with the episode 3 stuff where it was like, there's 5 of us. Oh man, there's 3 of us. So they did that. They hit them with the return of the Revenge of the Sith. They hit them with that one, which was unfortunate because they went out. I was like, they couldn't get a couple of shots off. They were gone. I was like, dang. So then we have our main hero by himself, gets hit with the rope around his neck. I love the scene where he's got one arm free, and I thought he was gonna do something where he actually like, I don't know, kicked it up or something and like burned like right across the edges of them all. That's what I thought was gonna happen, but I was like, no, he just got captured. And then Moff Gideon comes down, and I'm not the only person I thought this, because as soon as he came down, I'm like, okay, red and black, Vader thing, but right on his face, Darth Maul thing. And it was interesting looking at his helmet, because it's been talked about a lot with the armorer, who was mighty suspicious. There are 2 spies. There's always 2 characters. But it's a spy. You don't get to see who it is yet. So somebody else was a spy, and everybody's been saying it, like the armor. And it was just like, man, she flipped the script real fast. But Bo-Katan, there were like a couple scenes where I was like, is she just gonna challenge her? Like, is she gonna stab her in the back and not do it with honor? Like, I was really worried that she was gonna like get the darksaber from her in like a split second and just kill her. And I'm telling you, if they kill Bo-Katan, I'm going to lose my mind. I do not want her to die in this. Some people were worried that Din might die. I heard recently they actually kind of talked about them doing sort of anthology thing where like the Mandalorian is just a Mandalorian. It's not necessarily Din. I love the season. This episode probably my favorite out of the whole series. Just culminated in something amazing. The penultimate episode is always really, really good though. Like when you think back on all your shows you love, like season finales can be great, but it's like that penultimate episode that just spikes it through the roof. It's always like that, but this was definitely one of the best ones for sure. So all the way through, it was absolutely amazing. He gets captured. He comes down. He looks like Darth Maul. He's got the spikes on his helmet like Darth Maul. The armor has spikes, which we've been talking about that for a super long time. It's like she could have just changed it. Like, what if they do a scene where it's scratch? I mean, they couldn't do a scratch because that would be like, you'd have to be like 0.025% of nerds to be like, oh my god, there's like a little bit of red and black. So most viewers that won't work. So they probably have to just say it. But man, what if they did that? Just like something happened and scratch it off, you see red and black paint. Probably not the most realistic thing, so I think they'll do something smarter than that. But man, it was interesting, and I was like, somewhere in here, they're gonna pull a Star Wars, and it's gonna be everybody's related. Moff Gideon's just gonna be like, surprise, I'm a secret Mandalorian. Somebody, this is back in Clone Wars days, so depending on how they want to do it, it could be him, it could be a family member, I guess, if my years are correct. Because I always forget. Yeah, it could have been him. He could have been a Mandalorian when that stuff happened. They had other characters that were in the episode talking about it. So he easily could be, having been older, and he could have believed in Maul. And a lot of people said that about the armor. Like, what if she used to, and then she kind of left that stuff behind? Because some people did. But then there were a lot of people that stayed with Maul, where it was like, no, he's got the darksaber, plain and simple, like it's him. Whether he has it or not, some people just kind of followed him. The old ways. So for a second, I was just about to say, like, he's a Mandalorian. I don't know if they're keeping that in their back pocket. I'm sure I'm wrong about that, but I'm just like, something about it. It's either him or the armorer. And, he wants to build the First Order, but he could be a Mandalorian. Like, there's so many things. And he says, like, okay, hey, I'm doing this thing. Basically, kind of his cloning technique, blending, like, the perfect species, pretty much, and taking stuff from pretty much everybody, Jedi, Sith, Mandalorians, like they're really the third big power. You got the light side, dark side, and this is the Mandalorians are number 3, which is why I love this season so much, because it's about all of them. So I like that. I was like, Din is super cool, but once the other stuff came in, I was like, I don't care about Din that much. No offense. Grogu let us see Luke again. I got to be happy about that, and Ahsoka live action. So it's like, it's not like I hate them in any way, shape, or form. It's like, I don't mind, all the Mandalorians are one cool Mandalorian. They're all cool. They can be. They just keep getting killed by all these giant things. Like, they have like a Godzilla fetish or something crazy. I'm just like, when are they gonna get a break? Giant monster coming in, it's wild. But it's cool. It's very cool. It's cool every time. Unfortunately, they got destroyed and we lost the boat. But man, the whole episode was so good. And then they go through, and it's like, Din is gone. Epic speech with Moff Gideon looking like, Darth Maul. Gives us the whole thing. Everything's wild. Everything's crazy. And then they get attacked. It's like, all right, open. I love the fact that they just start blasting the door, so they're already, firing as the door opens. I thought that was such a cool thing. And then it was like, okay, Bo-Katan, uses the Darksaber. Always great to see it ignited. Cuts through. Everybody leaves out, and it's like, it never. I don't think I've ever seen a single thing, including in Star Wars. It's happened multiple times, where the guy who has the Gatling gun is able to escape when he's like, don't worry, I'll back up the rear. And I'm like, this is it. He's the character that dies. And I knew the whole episode, I'm like, somebody's gonna die. And it's him, the Heavy. Heavy Mando, man, Hot Toys is about to make some crazy money. For anyone who doesn't collect 1/6 scale figures, they had the Heavy Mando out before, sold out, and then people wanted it, and now they have a new version coming out where it basically just adds the shield. And anyone who wasn't already getting it is going to be on that like hotcakes. So I wish I was rich, and that's all I can say about that. But everybody's gonna want that now because that was such an amazing way for him to go out. The music was amazing. The visuals were amazing. He had a laser Gatling gun overheat and it's like melting, and he just throws it at a dude. And then he's actually surviving the whole way through, beating people. I'm like, what is about to happen? He throws somebody off. I thought it was gonna be like a stealth thing for half a second, and it was just like, okay, where do you go from here? He actually did it. Like, what's the next step? And then they do a beautiful, terrifying callback to the beginning of the episode with the Praetorian Guards, and they come in with just the long whips, the one staff, one sword, and then like the little chain whip deal. The Ivy, Soul Calibur sword. And it was just like, this is amazing. And it was like he beat the sub boss, and then they brought in the real sub boss, and he couldn't do it. It was like, this is not your moment. And that is like, he had the badass moment of like regular troopers. And then this was one of my favorite examples ever, because I think they do it well. If you played Jedi Fallen Order, they do it really well in there, where it's like they introduce something that's like, this is fairly new with the Empire. And then it's like, oh, this weapon can like counter lightsabers, and there's like these troopers, and it's like, that dude's in black and white, he's dead. This dude who's already in black, he's a killer. You need to look out. So them doing, like, whenever you see a really good example of like the upper level troopers and stuff like that, guards and everything, it is so good. I love when they actually show like, here is why this person is way up here and not wearing just white fodder, fodder armor. And it was really good. Like, holy crap, they came out and he was still taking hits. He was still taking a buttload of hits. Like, he was getting hit with like weapons that were like shooting through Beskar, which is insane because lightsabers can't shoot through Beskar. So they got like extra stuff. So that was super cool. And like I said, it's kind of an evolution of what they had like in the Clone Wars, where it was like those electrical staffs, and now it's like more energy based. And it's just like, man, it's so cool to see like those upgrades throughout, a bunch of different medias. And I love it. And it was super cool. And they came in and they killed him, took a couple hits, which is still like extra badass. And it was just like the ultimate warrior's death sort of thing. But man, that was such a dark, like really cool and dark way to just be like, here's the upper echelon. And he was already doing it, but it was like, here's the efficiency of the upper echelon too. And it was like, this is crazy. Absolutely amazing episode. Din is captured. The rest of the Mandalorians are on the run. The armor, 100%. She's totally a spy. If not, it's like they've been effing with us the whole season, because somebody else is going to be the spy. It better not be Axe Wolves, because I actually like that dude. I'm gonna be pissed if it's Axe Wolves. But man, they did a really good job with this. It legit made me cry, and I was like, oh my god, this is good. Star Wars, Mandalorians. So obviously, I love this episode. Wish I didn't have cottonmouth so much I wouldn't be coughing, but love the episode. It's an interesting lead into the finale as well, because it ends on a cliff. It doesn't technically end on a cliffhanger, but the story is still like the cliffhanger itself. But it's like it ended on just a moment, but it's still like, okay, there's two stories. What's going to happen with Din and what's going to happen with the other Mandalorians? Will those stories converge? Of course, in some way, shape, or form they will. But then it's, what about the people up top? Because if the armor did betray them, then how's that going to play out? Is she going to pretend to her people? Like, how's that going to work? They also reference Navarro. The pirates were, hired by Moff Gideon, so that was interesting. It's like, okay, he's really trying to get some of the old mainstays. Like, these are the classics that we know. Let's keep things simple, doing the warlord stuff. So good. I love this episode. This was so good. I cannot wait to watch it again. It was really fun. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about this. I can't wait to see what in the world they do with the actual season finale, because I'm like, I don't know where you go from here. Probably have the New Republic somehow involved in establishing things, but I feel like somebody else might die. I'm genuinely worried. And the only person, I don't think they'll kill Din. If anyone's gonna die, I'd be like, I feel like it would be Bo-Katan, and it would be like the most tragic ending ever. And then he maybe would have to take over. I don't know. But I'm like, I feel like someone else is going to die. It could be the armor, where they reveal that she's the bad guy, and then, you know, she betrayed them, so they get to have that important kill, but it was still the fresh one. And then like Moff Gideon still gets to escape into the next season, and then maybe we finally kill this dude off, and maybe we'll actually get him, you know, through a whole season. Well, maybe they're like, all right, the odd numbers, he's not really in it till the last 2 episodes, 1 and 3. All right, he'll 7 and 8, boom, there we go. And then it's like 2 and 4 though, he'll be all over the place. So maybe that's what they're doing, because it's definitely been like that, where it's a weird cycle with his character. But I'm excited to see where this goes, who lives, who dies, because somebody else is going. I feel like Moff Gideon makes more sense, especially with like the First Order stuff. I feel like it makes more sense to keep him at least 1 more season. Also, General Hux, or Commandant Hux, who is General Hux's, Commander Hux, his father from the sequels. That was great. Also played by that actor's actual brother. So I love when they do stuff like that. So a whole episode's been wild. First Order is coming in. Navarro was already, like, everything that we've questioned or wondered about is like, this is it. It was Moff Gideon. All this stuff. Thrawn is in there. So, you know, it's, I can't wait for next week. Like I said though, without, you know, with all my rambling and just pure love of this episode, would love to know what you guys thought about it. Favorite parts, least favorite parts, what don't you like? What was something that you wish you saw more of? I honestly wish we didn't lose that ship. I thought it was a super cool idea, like pirate Mandalorians, people that have already been there. That was such a cool thing. I thought that was a great idea. I was like, dang, that boat looks sweet. I wouldn't have bought it, but it would be cool. Somebody will make it. Somebody's gonna be like, here's a model of the ship. Somebody's gonna make it. But we'd love to know what you guys thought about everything in this, and of course your theories, hopes, dreams, all that good stuff for the season 3 finale. So please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.